All right, welcome back, everyone. Here we are again for another Comedy Sports DNI Chats with me, your host, Luis Cortez. I am a longtime comedy sports player. I have played in both Los Angeles and in Chicago, and I now serve as Chicago's Director of Diversity and Inclusion. Now, we started this show in order to introduce our ensemble to our audience, to our fans, to anyone who is watching this, but also to hear their stories, to hear their backgrounds, and to hear how they've climbed the ladder of improv both here in Chicago and everywhere else that they have performed. And also to normalize conversations of diversity and inclusion within our own ensemble and within our own fans and within essentially anyone who watches these chats. We use these as a live resource for us to be able to learn from the mistakes of the past and hopefully start to make some smarter choices for the future. Today, I am joined by another one of our ensemble members. They're a rising star in the Comedy Sports Chicago sky. I would say
so bright.
One of the only people that really gives me a run for my money when it comes to 5 or 6 things. Before it was just like Ryan Ford and myself and Yvette, but now joining the list of these superstars at things, please welcome ensemble member Susan Haarman.
Hello. I still think you're still a much better clue giver. I whenever I see you give, I will like tuck things away to be like, all right, so the next time Daffy Duck comes up, I'm just gonna plagiarize the hell out of what Louis
That's so
did,
funny that you say that because since like joining Chicago, I had been off of like the things train for a couple years because I'd been working like at sea and all that stuff. So to come back and have to like relearn it and then learn the Chicago style of doing things because we did it very differently in LA. Okay. I felt like I fell off the clue wagon for a big while, and I would only let myself guess until I was like, I gotta start giving clues again. And it was the same thing with reffing. I didn't start reffing again until like a couple years in. And again, it felt like, walking through mud. I was like, how does
Where
this
am
work
I?
again?
What's going on?
Yeah, what's
what
happening?
What do I do with my hands?
But yeah, I've like tried to just like take that like Jason mentality of like, don't try to fit into the mold. Like, just break the mold, come up with something brand new. So I've the thing that I think a lot of people don't know about the way I play 6 things is when we were at the theater, I would I moved to different spots on the stage and assign like a clue to a different spot. So like essentially I'm kind of moving a little box, but essentially like if I'm standing here, remember it's this clue. If I'm standing over here, it's this clue. If I'm over here, it's this clue. That's how I changed it up. So to not have that space here at home, I've had to completely relearn how to play things again. So it's been since we started back in like April or May, it's just been growing pains with things. But to see not just myself, but the ensemble as a whole grow specifically with that game, because for years we claim it as, when I say we, I mean the league itself, we claim it as like, this is our thing. Like things is the comedy sports thing. 5 things is across the board, but 6 things has now become the Chicago thing. It's been really cool to watch it like morph over the years. But enough about me and things. I want to hear about you. So, Susan, for people who are not familiar with you, why don't we hear a little bit about your background, where you came from, and then where your improv journey started.
Improv journey. Yeah, man. What did I give you? Susan. My favorite color is a nice aquamarine, not for wearing, but for looking at.
What's your favorite color to wear?
So it's funny. I just took like an online quiz. Apparently, I'm a winter. I feel like I wear a lot of like navies and like garnets and stuff like that. So like just the cool colors, if you will, cool and moody in the winter. I feel like I can't rock a gemstone. I feel like I can't. Maybe I just don't have the confidence.
I could swear that I was a winter, but the colors that I really love to rock are black and red. Black and red, I feel like really make me pop.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until later in life that I finally got confident and brave enough to like, because I was like, I always wanted to be that kid who wore a tie, and I always wanted to wear like really bright colors, but for whatever reason, I was just like, I can't. That's not me. And then I finally started doing it, and I was like, oh, this is amazing.
And it's totally confidence. I think that's the thing that drives me crazy is I feel like if I just woke up one day and it's like, yeah, I'm going to wear this. This is what I'm going to wear. It would be fine. But like, there's some stupid voice in the back of my head that's like, no, but that's a bad idea. So dumb.
The compliment that I think I loved the most after I started doing that was when people would look at my outfit and go, you know, that shouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
But it does.
But it does. Yeah. There's so many people where you're like, this really fundamentally should not be a thing, and yet I cannot take my eyes off of you. Yeah, it's all confidence. How do you get?
I share that with Cynthia Kamak. Multiple times we've walked in on each other like wearing separate outfits, and we've both just gone like, "Oh, can I?" And we've actually gone like, "Can I try your shoes on?" We've done that to each other so many times because we've both come in with these crazy shoes, and we're both like, "You gotta let me try those on." Oh my god! I love her to death. Okay, so we got as far as your favorite color, but tell us a little bit about where you came from.
Yeah, so I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. So girl of the bluegrass. One older sister, so she's 8 years older than me. So kind of like grew up a little bit of like a lonely kid, a little bit of a loner, huge nerd. So that just really helped. So all through middle school, I feel like I had kind of the classic, like when you talk to most improvisers, like you dig a little bit and you're like, that's where someone definitely basically made you feel small and you've been trying to like combat that for the rest of your life, essentially. I had a friend who was like, you get funny or you get bitter. So hopefully I got funny. And then I went to college up in Wisconsin. I bounced around the country a bunch. So I lived in Wisconsin, Texas, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, California, the beloved Bay Area, and but have been in Chicago for the past, it will be 9 years. 9 years this upcoming. So it like
all the moving around, was that like as you were growing up, or was that once you like went like post college and just kind of
post college on? So combination of I did a post grad volunteer program. Then some of it was just bouncing with because I was a campus minister at some Catholic colleges for a while. That's the fun fact that most folks don't know about me, and even some people in the ensemble actually. I'm not in ministry anymore, but because I had sort of these specialized jobs, I think between sort of moving for these jobs and grad school, that was also part of it. But then got to Chicago after living in I think part of it is I lived in Erie, Pennsylvania, which is not a great place to live. Sorry, friends in the internet, if you're from Erie, Pennsylvania. I have an opinion. Maybe you can sway me on it.
You don't have to apologize. It's Erie, Pennsylvania.
It's Erie, Pennsylvania. And then moved to Chicago and was like, this is home. Like in that weird sense where you're just sort of like, no, this is it. Yeah.
At which point did you start performing?
Yeah. So high school, one of the schools that I did, so I went to an all-girls high school, but I did my theater at the all-boys high school. And they had this little improv group, not affiliated with anything, but essentially I think the instructor had us do like super basic short form games around like a little like holiday play that we would like put on at like nursing homes and like grade school. So it was like a service improv troupe. But I just remember being like, man, this is so great. This is so much fun. And I did it like a little bit in college. But the college group, God, I'm trying to remember what its name even was. It was definitely full of the classic like white dudes in flannel who just want to talk about their dicks constantly. And I was like, this feels less exciting. And so had dropped it for a while until when I was in grad school in the Bay Area. I was like in a coffee shop, and it had been like after my first semester, and I just was like so totally consumed with like all I do is read and go to school. I need to be doing something. I was frustrated. And I legitimately, when people are like, who looks at flyers? Who does that? I looked up at a flyer and it said improv classes. And I was like, I liked that. And I ripped off the little clippy thing on the coupon. Doot. And so did stuff for 3 years with the group called Pan Theater. I think the Bay Area is now like has a nice burgeoning improv scene, but at the time it was in its infancy. There was actually Max McCall, wherever he is out in the world. I think like I took classes with him, but now I think he's like either like a theater owner or like a pseudo dude. But
where in the Bay Area was this?
Oakland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Pan was in Oakland. But we would do like performances. Oh God, what was that weird? Not the Presidio, but it was still on the coast, but it was like almost old army buildings, like the north side of the city in San Francisco. It was like Fort something.
Yes. Was it close to the Palace of Fine Arts?
Yes.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, we would do shows over there.
I went to college in San Francisco. I went to San Francisco State, so I know that area. Was Bats around then? Bay Area theater sports, were they a thing then?
I remember I never saw them do anything, but I think I remember seeing it or like talking to someone in a bar. I think after a show that was involved with Bats or something like that.
Yeah, because in college I auditioned for Bats and I auditioned for Blue Blanket Improv. They did improv in parks, and you would recognize them by their giant blue blanket.
Blue blanket.
I did not get into either.
Oh, those punks. They don't even know what they're missing. Screw you, Bats. Take that. But the Pan folks, I think, had like basically it was IO, but that was the first time like I'd ever done long form, and so basically it was just sort of like every free waking moment for the next 2.5 years was spent with them, and like totally saved my sanity and was just like so wonderful and delightful. I think is especially one because I was in grad school, so it was just like needed something that was dumb, but also like for a person like me who is like totally socially anxious and being in a thing where literally like what you say is okay on stage, like okay, that's fine, now we have to deal with it. I'm like, oh God, I've arrived, thank you, like this is perfect. And so then after California I moved to Erie, Pennsylvania, and shockingly there's not a burgeoning improv scene out there, shockingly enough.
I won't believe it.
Maybe there is. Who knows? Maybe I missed it. And so I had this huge gap. But when I moved to Chicago, it was funny because I remember like I told myself, I was like, okay, you have to make yourself these like 2 promises that within like you have to do this once you're here. One was because at the time I would listen to the podcast, The Moth, which is a storytelling podcast, constantly. I loved it. And I was listening, had been listening to it forever. And I was like, if I ever live in a city that has The Moth, like I'm going to go there as much as I can. And then the other part of me is like, okay, then I just need to start like jump headfirst. You're in the beating heart of improv. You just have to like jump headfirst and get into it. And I was on stage telling a story at The Moth within 2 weeks of having moved into town. But I actually didn't get my butt around to like taking classes and being like, or doing anything for 5 years, Luis, 5 whole years. And then finally, partially, I think because of one, I had a really bad experience in a class because misogyny, and then kind of took a break and then stumbled back in, and then eventually via the wonderful world that is, I think, all of our interconnected social networks. It was Cynthia Kamek, actually, has been talking about comedy sports, and like people have been talking about these house team things, and I like sat down with her and I was like, tell me of this sport of comedy, tell me more about that. And then it went further. So I was on house teams for a year, and Yvette was my coach, and she's a baller and fantastic, as we all know. And by the grace of Jason Geis and everybody else, I made it onto the ensemble, and it's been a love story ever since. So
so you said you moved to Chicago 9 years ago.
Yeah.
At which point, now was that the 5 years that you waited to take a class was when you were here in Chicago?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so you landed in Chicago, waited 5 years to take a class.
Years.
And then, so that would have been what, like 2016 that you started taking classes?
Yeah, 2016.
Okay.
Yep.
So you essentially started up in Chicago literally as I was landing in Chicago as well. I
Oh my
landed
gosh, that's
here
funny.
like April, May of 2016. Um,
Okay.
and so, yeah, essentially kind of
That's funny.
started with comedy sports right away just
The same.
because I had all the,
Yeah.
like, that's where I
Yeah.
had friends. So I was like, we'll just start there.
That's where you knew
Um,
people. Yeah.
where did you start taking classes? Was it at comedy sports or?
No, so it was at the Annoyance, and like took a class there and had like horrible experience and basically like swore off of it, which I think it had very little to do with the Annoyance and just it was a bad fit with an instructor. I accidentally like kept him from flirting with a student, and he had been drinking at the bar after a class and just decided to lash out at me because I was cock blocking him accidentally. So who knows? Maybe he's still there. I hope not. I doubt it is. I've not heard other complaints about folks there, but
How it was not that it's important, but how did you
yeah.
accidentally cock block him?
Mm-hmm. Oops a doodle. We were sitting there and that's the other thing to sort of like the interesting culture, I think, to a certain extent, and what I've always appreciated about comedy sports is like there is a level of familiarity, but like also with students and other folks, like I have not seen people have bad boundaries, which I appreciated because I think in other like areas or pockets of Chicago, there is this whole thing of like you go to class with your instructor who, you know, regardless of whether this person is older than you or not, definitely has like there's this kind of weird power dynamic or like they're setting a tone or they become again like a representative of the theater. But then and then it's like, okay, let's all go to the bar and drink afterwards, which like one, if I'm not sober, but if you're sober, I imagine that's got to be kind of tough. But then they're sitting there, in some cases like getting schmammered with their students, and it leads to weird stuff. And I just wonder if we're ever gonna like figure that out as a city and as a scene. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think the biggest thing with that is just the way we choose our teachers. And when I say we, I just mean the scene in general.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas like, it wasn't until like Jason came in or maybe even the year right before he came in, but where we said like we should audition our teachers. And so we kind of there's a step and a process to becoming a teacher, and it's not even just like they're the hot thing right now, we should give them a class, or they're really popular, we should give them a class, or like when I lived out in LA, if Sharna sent out any of her people out to LA, the demand was immediately like, when they land, you will give them a class. And that was like, that's like, we were just her dumping ground essentially. So like, all we ever heard was like, yeah, this new person just landed and they already got a class because Sharna said so. And that's how it was done. So I think until we break down that process of how we pick them and who, that's going to keep happening.
Well, and like the skill set between being a good teacher and being a good performer are completely different. Like, and sometimes they overlap with people, but sometimes and very often they don't. No, but the accidental, this is actually a funny story. So, it's, I'm like awkwardly, like, holding my beer, like the very awkward human that I am, like looking for an opening in conversations at all. And because I, in general, just feel totally uncomfortable wherever I am all the time. But my one thing is I'm like, oh, I know a fact about something, so now I have a reason to exist in this. So might I add, which I think for some people they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, can't you just be a normal human? I'm like, no, can't, just too uncomfortable. But so the instructor was very evidently hitting on this girl. And they were like talking about like, and we're all like basically like sitting at a table, like watching him awkwardly hit on her. As often it happens. And they're talking about like playing sports in high school or something like that. And so again, a good chunk of the table is like, whoop, got nothing to add here. And he looks at her, he's like, I'm thinking about doing a triathlon. I'm thinking about it. And she's like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I, despite the fact that I did not do any sports in high school, got into endurance sports for a little while later in life. And so have done a few of those, done one or two. And so he's like, yeah, I'm thinking about, I might even do an Ironman. So, and I'm just, I just don't. I'm doing that awkward, like, do I say no? I'll just no, because no one wants to be that kid, right? And then she's like, the girl is like, oh my god, how long are those even? At which point in time, he was like, well, I think you bike for like 40, bike for 40 miles, then you swim for 10, and then you run a marathon. And Luis, I couldn't just let it go, couldn't let it ride. I was like, I don't think that that's right. I think it's different than that, and he's like, no, I'm sure it is. And I was like, no, I don't. I think it's you swim, bike, run. And I'm almost positive that those are not the metrics. And he's like, I would know. That's what they are. And I just was that kid and was like, well, I've done 2, and I can promise you it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 kilometer, like 112 mile bike, and a full marathon at 26.2. I would know. I've done 2 of them. At which point in time, he was like, what are you fucking, like, basically, aren't you fucking special? Threw just like a litany of obscenities my way. And I was like, yeah, I don't know that this is going to work out. But I embarrassed him in front of that girl he was hitting on. And so it didn't go so well. Yeah, but it is also, though, a classic example of what my girlfriend talks about. She's like, you just can't. You can't walk away from some things. I just couldn't. Yeah.
Well, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
Let them be wrong?
Wrong? How, Luis?
Why?
How?
Why? Yeah. Why would we do that?
Just existing in the world being wrong.
I have the right answer at the tip of my tongue.
I can help.
Why wouldn't you want it?
Yeah. Why? You could be in a situation in which your life will depend upon you knowing the correct metrics of an Ironman, and you won't know. Your blood will be on my hands.
That, along with my snarkiness and the fact that I just kind of have a resting angry face when I'm not smiling, leads to, I can tell why people are like, oh, don't go talk to that guy. I'm like, that's probably smart.
I don't think you have a resting angry face at all, Luis. I think it's just a resting charming face.
Oh, well, I'll take it, but my 0 friends would argue with you.
Your life experience. Shame on you. Oh man.
I'm assuming you
classes at annoyance.
Did you?
I did not continue on there. Yeah. No, I did not. I did not. And then I flipped over to doing theater at a now defunct little spot called PH in Andersonville. It was a little storefront theater. Mm-hmm. And there are quite a few folks like on cast who had some connections with that. Jason was actually the co-founder back in the day.
Right.
And that was I really loved that. It was very much a family atmosphere, doing long form again. The thing that PH was known for was like long form at like the speed and intensity of short form, but in long form. So lots of big emotions, lots of the rest of it. And learned a ton, really kind of like found, definitely felt like cared for and taken care of, very much sort of a close little family environment. Definitely still, it was funny, I struggled with like all of these things that were sort of like natural to my mind are good at, sometimes would become these huge liabilities, right, in long form, like either the quippiness or, I don't know, just like the feeling the need to like very accidentally be like, and here's like a random fact about the thing that we're talking about, right, in the middle of the scene. The commentary, yeah. Or like the, exactly.
That was what would trip me up with long form as well, where I would get the note of like, you're like, you're there, but to comment on it, and you just need to be part of it. And I was like, yeah, you just described my life. Go on.
Tell me more. Or the, again, like we're talking about something and like, here's this either like obscure fact or like in joke that like I would make. And the problem is, if there is that one single person in the audience who gets it and is like, ha ha, I'm like, yeah, I made your day. I made your damn day. But I forget that there are like 35 other people who are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And that is not funny at all. And
yet,
but I think actually
that one giggle is just
so
like,
good. And like, and it's like they feel, I'm like, you feel known. I can tell.
Yeah.
I just made a joke about the Necronomicon, and somewhere out here who reads Lovecraft is like, oh, you see me. Yeah, but
And I think maybe
man,
some of that, not like hearing you describe that, it's almost like us reaching out to the people that are like us. That it's like the one guy who's probably just a little uncomfortable there, or the one, you know, the one person who's just like, this is fun, but I don't know how to be. And then they hear that, and then they just kind of sink into their chair a little bit more to relax and actually enjoy it. And that to me, I'm like, that's worth it. That's worth it.
Or just like that way of saying, and I definitely think like in the broader sense, improv still does this, but like validating like that weird thing that you're interested in, right? That you think like no one else is interested in. Like, one, not only is it not weird, it's something that you love, so you should take joy in it, and that's awesome. But two, like, you're not alone, right? Like somebody out there is also like, yeah, let's talk about this random thing or these books or, you know, this fun subject matter. Because like
my old artistic director in LA, James Thomas Bailey, he used to say, I'm pretty sure he still does, he used to tell us, the improviser's mind should be 5 miles wide and 1 inch deep.
An inch deep.
So like, know a little bit of everything. And I've taken that to heart to this day.
Yeah. I was a journalism major in undergrad, and it was the same thing. Like, our core curriculum was crazy because it's like, yeah, you have to know some surface level understanding of all of these things because you never know what kind of story you're going to land in and how you're going to take care of it. But yeah, no, I think my brain is very similar to that. But
yeah, it's what's led me to like not really like settle on a career, because I just like to jump from job to job to job to job, because I'm like, that looks interesting and that looks interesting and let's try that.
I can learn from that.
Yeah, and I'm just
I can learn from that.
Someone who very much enjoys, and Elisa knows this about me, my wife. I don't say that for you, I say that for everyone else. But she always, you know, we just talk about, she knows like you love watching someone just be good at their job, whatever their job is. It could be, you know, flipping burgers
wonderful.
Or it's doctor, just to watch someone kill at it. I'm just like, oh, look at you, just perfect. I love it.
But someone like, I 1,000%, I don't think there's anything more beautiful or compelling than watching like someone who's like a master in their craft, even if I have no interest in it, because I'm sure like the thing that makes them a master in it is gorgeous in its own way, you know, or just seeing people like get lit up from within, like, and you see that, right? I think that's the other thing I love about improv is like you will see that in like first time performers or other stuff where it's like something turns on and it's like you feel alive in ways that you didn't know that you could feel, maybe for the first time in your life, maybe for the first time in who knows how long. And that, like, how can you not be drawn to that, you know? It's so great.
So you went through Annoyance, you did some stuff over at PH.
PH sadly closed. Yeah.
So PH closed.
It fell underneath the culling. And then I started doing stuff at informally with LOL, which has a theater out in Schaumburg, had a theater at the time in Chicago. That's also kind of where I initially started making connections with some of the comedy sports stuff. And for a while, still am, but when it starts running again, but the show called Booze Your Own Adventure. It's a very silly late night show. We were in a booze together, I think.
I was going to say I played that once.
Okay.
We might have played it together. I know Charlie was there.
Okay.
But I don't remember. I don't remember how it went, but I remember I did that once.
Yeah. Seeing Charlie and Booze might be one of my favorite things in the world, because seeing her without a leash is fantastic. It's just so great. But then, so heard about CSZ and had a couple of people who were like, you might really like short form, and landed on a house team. And I think in addition to having a great coach, but like really realized that I think all of the things that kind of made me a liability in long form were huge assets in short form, right? A tendency to, because too, like I would like make up too much stuff in long form. I would in my head like want to build out like a whole world accidentally, rather than just being like, let's stare into each other's eyes and talk about sandwiches until something hilarious occurs. And so, but like the impulse of, I now have an understanding of sort of like where we are in a scene within the first 5 seconds, and like we can riff off that as needed and like build something in the world. Being fast, for lack of anything else, some quick synapses up here, and all the useless trivia. Like it was that moment where I was like, oh, it was never, because before I think it was this continual thing of, and even the folks who didn't mean to, right? So like I think I had wonderful experiences at PH, but like I don't, and I learned a ton from them, but it was still the sensation of like there's still just something about you and the way you play that's like not right and needs to be corrected, right? Which just, because it's like you get those notes where you're like, well, just stop thinking, and it's like I don't know, like, sure. So just don't be you, don't be me, okay? Which is never meant to do that, but like when you keep kind of finding yourselves, because for me, my experience, it's like I'm a queer woman. I was in ministry in the Catholic Church for a while, so like my entire life was basically one study in just like being the wrong thing, you know, like the wrong everything. And CSZ was one of the first places where like when I landed, who I was right. And I think that like that is the thing that stuck with me. I think that's why I love the place so much. And I got crazy lucky. And when Generals opened up, I got cast, which was great because I am a terrible auditioner. So I had the one good night of my life that night, apparently, and it paid off. But yeah.
I will say that audition, though I don't remember the specific details of it, I do remember that someone had said, like, they mentioned, like, Susan Harmon's coming in, keep your eye on her. I was like, okay. I was like, I don't know who this person is, but yeah. Okay. And so, like, that was, I remember hearing that. I was like, just, keep your eye on her. We want her. If she does well, we want her. I was like, okay, I will do so. And here you are.
And here I am, and it's been so great.
What year did you get cast?
Oh, that was 2019. Yes. November of 2019. Yeah.
And, okay, so not to,
November,
and then we shut down, like...
Yeah. No, we literally, so I think within, like, it may have even been, his new player weekend was later. So I had, like, a couple, like, not even, I think probably, like, less than, like, 10 matches on stage before things were shut down. Like, I still was, like, trying to figure out opening choreography. But the one nice thing was the first time I went out to guess for 5 things, I got all 5 of them. So one, it was Yvette and Kat Gotzik giving me clues. So I mean, you basically, yeah, you're being handed, it's being handed to you on a silver platter. But it was funny because it was like a 2 p.m. match, and like Hars was reffing, but it was like 2 p.m. on like a Sunday. And so it's like littles and parents, and like no one has been there before. And so as it's getting closer, like everyone on stage is starting to freak out. And then when I got it, like Kat and Yvette literally like lifted me up in the air. It's the closest thing to like a high school like sports moment I've ever had in my entire life. But you could see Hars being like, so how do I explain to these people, like, this is actually a big thing. Yeah, but my little time on stage, I made it count. So there we go. So that's nice. Yeah.
So now you've been in it a year and some change. The bulk of that being online.
Yeah.
How's it filling out for you? How's it feeling?
So for me, and it's not the same. I absolutely miss like being with people. I miss like being able to use the bottom half of your body in a scene. But like if virtual matches are like a sanity saver for me, because like if nothing else, like it's how like I mark my weekend. Because like how is my weekend different from like I work from home? Like I got lucky and like my job just transitioned online, so super lucky in that account. It's wonderful. But like matches are the thing that it's like, oh, it's like I'm in a double header on Saturday night, gotta figure out when we're gonna cook dinner as a result of it. But it's like something that like makes like the weekends feel special, that makes times goes, and just even getting like that time to just be dumb and silly and like play with people. And I think like the community around everything, like the burners are crazy, like the barn burners are crazy. But like I have loved, I think, watching it bring people together in really unexpected ways. But then also just like the quality time of like these are like familiar faces of people that I care about, that I still, you know, it's not the same, but like we still talk about like, okay, what shows are you watching on Netflix? I still hear about people's days, still hear about like, you know, like who's going out on dates with who, and like all these people that I love and care about who had created this like place and community that I was like, ooh, like this is it, like this is the spot, you know, like this is the place that I've been looking for, that I've had such a hard time finding.
It's so funny.
It's
I found the place so young. Like I found Comedy Sports at 17, but because it was LA, and you know, there was always like you gotta reach for the next thing. I was always made to feel like you can't just like settle here, like you gotta shoot for more. So forever I was just always like, this is where I train, this is where I do this. But it took me so long to finally just be like, no, like this is my place, this is where I belong. This is where, like you said, like all the things that everyone else tells me this is something you need to fix, was just like, this fits so well here, and keep doing that here, just keep being you, but here. And it took me so long. I mean, I've been doing it 22 years. I'm 22 years into Comedy Sports, and it's only been 6-7 years that I've actually finally like, no, like this is my thing. Comedy Sports is my thing. Yeah. So I totally get that. It makes me so happy that you finally have that. Not a lot of people find that, no matter how long they play.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, yeah, I think it's, and too, like some of it's short form, but like some of it is, and too, like it's Chicago, it's how we do things, it's the environment that like it's been created. Like I am insanely lucky. Like I know that, and I love it. And I think, you know, it's a gift. Like that's how I see virtual matches, is like, I could have done through all of this and gotten all of it and had like 1 or 2 matches on stage, and then it's done. And I know like some people can't play because of like other arrangements, but for me, I'm just sort of like, this is this thing that was this gift in your life. Like, why would you stop? Like, why would you put it down? So.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And again, like you said, like I respect that there's some people that because of certain circumstances they can't, or just don't feel like they can. But yeah, so if anyone's out there watching and you're thinking like, should I get back to shows? Yes.
Please do.
Come back. We miss you.
We miss you so much. It's different, but you might find out that you have weird superpowers. Like, you know.
The thing that I've noticed the most, and I've said this a few times, is the people who I guess I would consider a bit more introverted than the rest of us, watching them online, and they're shining because they're surrounded by their comfort zone. They're just at home, protected by their things, and to watch them just boom all of a sudden on the screen is just like, where was this? Look at you. This is amazing. I love that you were able to pull this out of the fact that, you know, we're essentially stuck at home, and like you said, like, this is your break. Like, that's my desk where I work during the day, and then I literally walk 2 feet to my show. So to be able to just like, even though it's there, step away from it and be like, I'm not working right now, I'm playing. Yeah.
With the Zoom shows too, I think like if you're a quieter player, like, or if you're less wacky, and so sometimes you might like, you often like, you end up being like the backbone of a scene, but maybe like you're not as flashy as other folks. It's easy to get lost on stage. It's really hard when there's literally an equal sized box with your head on it on screen. Like, you cannot get lost because it's impossible. But I do. I think like I know it makes me bolder at least. So hopefully it does that for other folks.
Yeah, it seems like to really give people a certain confidence that, and maybe it's the fact that you can't get lost in the nonsense, and excuse me, but I think people don't acknowledge how much like the weight of a straight person is you know, it's worth its weight in gold. That person that's like, you can anchor yourself and let the rest of us just be insane, but it's all pivotal on you because you're the one that's keeping it just grounded here. And I think the people that do that may not see it that way. They're just like, oh, I'm kind of this, I'm kind of that. I'm like, no. A lot of my nonsense is pivotal on people like you because it's ridiculous if it's just out in the ether by itself. But with that straight person, that anchor who really just like, boom, nails it all down, I feel comfortable because I'm like, you're my safety net. You're the fence where I need to stop.
Can make sense. Some of my like favorite scenes I've ever done were like one-off like two-person scenes. Andreas and I were on a team together in a completely like other setting, and for folks who have not seen him play, like lightning in a bottle does not begin to describe like Andreas's energy when he's on. It is like ridiculous. But like we would get in this dynamic where basically like he would do his like, you know, like chicken strut around the stage, like, you know, just being ridiculous, and I would just sit here like basically being the straight man for everything, and it was fantastic, and I totally loved it, and it was just great because I felt like we were both just giving people a gift, giving people a little gift. So it was a good time.
So where do you where do you see yourself going within the company? Like, what do you have any new goals now that you've made it onto the ensemble? You know, you're claiming the games that you're good at and working on the others, and but where do you see yourself going? Or what would you like to do? I guess is a better way of saying that.
Yeah. I see, this is where I get into thing like a lot of the times like I just want to be like useful to the things that I care about. So that's why part of me is just like, I don't know, what do you need help with, you know? So some, like, I think some of it is that. I think part of it is because, like I've got a day job. I'm older than your average bear when it comes to like improvisers. So like I don't necessarily have these dreams of like, and then I'll do this professionally and I'll make it. Which I just, you know, it's just not a thing. So for me, like all of it just feels like a gift, right? Like all of it just feels like this thing. So that like I could not have anticipated in my life, and that I can just like take joy from. But I think I am super excited about like, you know, like one shots, Todd and I's, you know, like the basically sort of tabletop games. Yeah, upcoming show. I think that'll be really fun. Excited about that because there is an element of, and we've done some storytelling shows. I would love maybe in a future life if we can find a way to make those happen again. Because it's a totally different thing. It's a different art form. You've done it before, Luis. What I would really love is over and above sort of us putting on shows to get more of our ensemble members to do it, because it's a different thing. And it is funny to me that people who like have no problem being huge and loud and big and bold, like the minute that you're like, well, what about you? You know, like, do you want to tell a story? And they're like, oh no, I could never. And it's like, why? You know, like you've done solo sets before. It's like people sort of inherently know that there's this level of vulnerability that they get asked for, and it scares the shit out of them. But I have seen both, like, I think what that can do for people when they really start telling stories, right? When it's not a performance piece, and when it really is, here is this thing that I'm giving out to the world. And I've done some crafting on it, you know, I'm not just sort of like, you know, throwing it out there, but I really, at the end of the day, like, here's a feeling I've felt and I want to share that with you. And I think it does incredible things for the people who hear it, but I also I know that I have been changed in the process of like storytelling and doing that, because it's made me continually like look at things differently in my life, or take different spins, or like seeing the way it connects with people. So like if I had a secret ambition, it would be to get more people on the ensemble to tell stories. I would love to do that.
You should pitch a storytelling show. Why not?
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Go ahead.
No, you.
Go.
Okay, fine. And I think the other thing is I just want to keep like making like the theater I think we already are a great like open and welcoming space. At least I've experienced, for folks who are female identified and for folks who are queer. But like I want, and maybe that's just a matter of like being seen, because I mean that's why I wear that little rainbow sweatband in every match I'm in, just because it's, you know, like it is important. Like if there's like a random 12-year-old who's on Twitch who stumbles across it and is like, oh, I think there's somebody who's like me, there, like that visibility is important. So I think, yeah, I think we're already good at that, but I want to make sure that like, I want us to be known for being like the most inclusive, the most affirming, where like you really can be whoever you need to be when you walk through the door. And that, again, like that's seen as an asset, not something that you have to play around.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now, you also mentioned being older than the average player. Has that, do you find that is a strength here? Or did you feel like it made you stick out more? Or do you just feel like one of the bunch?
I feel like it's a mix, right? Like I think our ensemble has a bigger age range, at least I've experienced. So like there are our folks my age, our age. So yeah, like you can have the conversations like you and I have definitely talked about mortgages before, right? Like that is not a conversation that I can, always have with folks. And yeah, like the kind of like, oh God, I gotta like fix this in my house now and I don't know how. I've asked for advice on how to fix things in my house from you. And so like I think that is great, but also in so many ways, like the stage is a great equalizer, but then there will be, I think moments are just life experiences where like you're in a different spot, or, you're kind of dealing with different stuff, or you're at a different stage in your life. So having like one or two people where you can have those conversations with, or just even sometimes it's as simple as like, dude, I'm old and like this looks great and fun, but like I can't stay up until 2 a.m. Throwing them back, because if I do, I will be in so much pain the next morning. And I will have these moments where it's like, oh, like, you hear like, oh, and then, we sang karaoke until 3 a.m. and then went and inexplicably got, for a while, everyone was always getting seafood at like 4 a.m. I'm like, where are you going that you're getting seafood? 1, seafood at 4 a.m. 2, why would you want to get seafood at a place that sells seafood at 4 a.m.? That just feels like it's like buying the taquito, the lone taquito in the 7-Eleven that it's been there for 3 months, right? Don't get it. Don't get it. Don't do it.
At 4 a.m., it feels like this is either super fresh or old as hell.
Who?
Because
where is this from?
Because the new stuff comes in an hour.
Yeah. So and every now and then I get these moments of like, oh, I'm missing the fun, or like sometimes I think and this is true, I think of a little bit of the scene all across the board. There is a little like I myself am not sober. I could imagine it would be very difficult to be someone who's sober in this scene, just because I do think there can be a lot that's, contingent upon drinking or other elements of it. And like, just sometimes if we're staying up until midnight playing board games in the lobby, like, whoo-hoo, like that would be my jam. I don't know that I'm always funny after that 4th beer. I'm still gonna drive home.
We all think we are.
But
we're
probably
not. Probably not. And I believe we do have a few sober folks around the theater. Yeah. Now, obviously, I myself am not sober either.
Yeah.
But I've never heard of people feeling like the pressure. Although
that's good.
Again, I'm not someone who is sober, so that's not a pressure that would apply to me. But it would be interesting to find out how those people do feel about, and it's not just comedy sports. I think it's just an improv theater thing where like, and then we drink.
We drink afterwards. No, I think it is much more the larger culture. I think of places I've seen, and again, that's part of why like comedy sports has been one where I'm more likely to run into, again, like people who are not necessarily like, and now we're going to hit it until 5 a.m. But yeah, just in general with that scene, I can't imagine, like, is that hard? Is it something that's easy? I don't know, but.
And I think for me, it was also that because in my 20s, I did do that. Now, 39, and when you have that moment of like, oh, but if I leave now, I'm going to miss all the fun. It's like, no, you're not. You're not. You know what's going to happen? I'm going to drink for a few more hours, and then we're all going to stumble home. Do you really want to stumble? I was like, no, I still feel good right now. I was like, yeah, put that beer down and go home.
Yeah. Do you want that migraine in the morning? You don't. Yeah. No, same. And very much my 20s also, like and in retrospect, I was like, how much of those like great fun memories were contingent upon whatever and just more like a fluke of the moment. And you know, there's something fun we're missing right now, Luis, out there in the world. Something fun is happening. We're missing out on it.
The funnest party is always the one that you're not at.
You're not at.
Yeah. Because it's like, in your mind, it is just like, it's the rager to end all ragers, and I'm sitting here doing work. It's like, no, it's not. It's just a regular old party, and there'll be more.
It's a standard party. There's a couple fun moments, It has, I think, it's made me, like, as I've gotten older now, and maybe this is me just trying to reframe it, but, like, those moments when I'm like, okay, if I know, like, I'm going to have, so, like, when I do a show like Booze, which starts at 11, does involve alcohol, but like would run late into the night. I mean, very easily, if you're not careful, if you get into a good conversation, you could be there till 3:30 in the morning.
Oh, totally.
And so I would do a thing of like, okay, I'm gonna have one. If I'm gonna stay after, I'm gonna have one drink and then I'm gonna go. But I got to the point where I was like, here is your one drink. So love every single moment of this. Like, is there somebody you want to chat to? Is there somebody you want to give a compliment to? Is there somebody that you want to, you know, just like connect with? Like, do it, love it, because once that beer's gone, you're gone. Done so.
Fair enough. So we are coming to the end of our time, believe it or not. So tell me, now we talked about essentially where you kind of would like to go within the company. Essentially, you know, just where I'm needed I think is a fantastic answer. But what do you find yourself working on right now, or like the thing you would like to work on? So, you know, we talked about, you know, mastery of the games and 6 things and all that, but what do you find yourself focusing on right now, or what's the next thing you would like to focus on, or both?
Yeah, I think I want to get better about like just like from an artistic perspective, like even though I've only got do this, like how do I move around? How do I do interesting stuff? How like you can still do object work like in this space, and I feel like I've completely let that go. So like I want to get that back. I think what I'm excited about short term is like I want to get on voice, but like I want to ref. I've wanted to ref since I saw my first comedy sports match. So I am like, I know for some people they're like, I don't want to do that. That's so stressful. It's not my jam. I've been like chomping at the bit. I'm like, when is my year up so that I get to? Like, when am I allowed?
Your year is up, right?
I know. So whoever's listening up there, let me do the thing.
Let's get you in there.
Yeah, because I feel like, because that is the space where, yeah, like I feel like I shine. I think hosting is not everyone's thing. It is a nice spot for me. I enjoy that.
I've always said that with those sort of positions, you just get a different perspective of the show. Excuse me, from being a player to being a ref to being the voice, like it is a completely different perspective, and so you just get a different understanding of the inner workings of how the whole thing flows. So even if people never actually end up reffing, to make people ref like during rehearsals and stuff, to make people call it, I think is so. It's smart because it just gives people a different perspective on the games and the clues and how it all runs, and I think it would benefit all of us just to like get a little bit of reffing under our belts, even if you never actually end up reffing a match. But I think that is a fantastic next goal for you. I myself would like to start voicing. I used to voice back in LA. I haven't voiced since I got here in Chicago. But seeing like the banter between the ref and the voice, especially within Twitch and Zoom, it's so fun. Gosh.
And on Twitch too, like I think because it's like you have the voice on stage, it's great, but like being able to see like the facial reactions of the banter back and forth is just a delight. Yeah, just a dang delight.
Yeah, it's super awesome. I will. I'll pass that along. Let's make that happen.
All right, I would like that.
Susan, we're going to bring you back. We'll check back in. Hopefully the next time we talk, you will have refed and we can talk about how that process was happened. Yeah, we'll make that happen, most definitely. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Please find us on Facebook, find us on Instagram, find us on Twitch, CSZN, the Comedy Sports Network. If you find us on YouTube, you can also find our entire library of our DNI talks. I think I called it DNI chats at the beginning again, and I caught myself, but didn't correct myself. Chats, talks, chats, DNI talks, DNI chats. I just want the info. But please find us, follow us. Please watch all the other DNI talks that we have. They are fantastic. They are amazing, and you get to meet a lot of our ensemble members as well. Please watch all of our shows. By the time you watch this, by the time this is up, we will have programming 6 days a week. So find our schedule on Twitch. Other than that, we will see you all next time. Thank you all so much for being here. And Susan, thank you for being here as well.
It was a delight.